No. That's not what it was.
Severe weather is ripping across parts of upstate New York and now moving into Vermont, just exactly what they need there. So more thunderstorms and flood risks. We'll be dealing with severe weather threats Friday through Sunday.
Continue, Joe.
As I said, we will have more thunderstorms, flood risks, and severe weather threats Friday through Sunday in the Northeast. It's summertime across the nation. We've got heat going on in the Southwest, so it's all on the agenda on this Thursday, Joe and Joe Weather Show, 13th of July. Brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. Get your mulch and topsoil and sand, and also probably a good time to start checking around to make sure everything's in order in case there's a tropical storm or a hurricane up the East Coast once we get deeper into the season. And Omni's the place to go to get all that sort of stuff. 631-756-1125 is the phone number. Nowhere can you find better prices. And as we all know, the website is
OmniTrueValue.com.
And it might be handy to have a weather station at your house or place of business. Tempest by WeatherFlow. You can get the revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet by using the referral link pinned to the top of the chat board or on the descriptor to this video. And if you do decide to make any purchases on their website, be it this or any of the other incredible weather gadgets and this latest in smart weather fashion, use the coupon code Joe and Joe Weather Show, because if you do, you will get,
if you purchase your WeatherFlow equipment, 10% off by using that code Joe and Joe Weather Show.
yes.
I do. If I didn't have a weather
If
station,
you didn't have one, you'd get one.
I would do that. Yes.
All right, so after 2 mornings in a row of temperatures in the low 50s, we bottomed out this morning at 63. So I didn't have another, major league cool day. Beautiful sunny day here in northeast Georgia. Made it to the middle 80s, which is nice. It was a little humid, but wasn't crazy. But we've got some fairly wicked weather moving across upstate New York at the moment, and this is the last thing that needed to happen today, with regards to in lieu of what happened last Sunday.
It is. It's a rather nasty squall line. And the question in the tri-state metropolitan area was, would the line extend further to the south as the afternoon progressed and encompass parts of the New York metropolitan area? The answer to that apparently is going to be no. There was, or there is until 8 o'clock, a severe thunderstorm watch, which begins, the southern flank of that watch begins over Dutchess County, Sullivan County, Ulster County, and particularly areas to the north and northeast. And you're absolutely right, Joe. This line, however narrow, is very potent, containing hail, gusty, strong, if not damaging winds, very heavy downpours. It's progressing at a pretty good clip. So, again, you're right. This is the last thing that folks, especially in Vermont, which has been recovering from a terrible, excessively rainy day on Monday, it's the last thing that they need now is to have this thrown in their face for today. But again, at least it's moving along at a quick clip and should be out of there within the next few hours.
We have one tornado warning that is up right now for Columbia and Greene County in New York State. This was issued at 7:22 p.m. Eastern Time. It's got another 20 minutes to go, so expires at 8 o'clock. It was a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado near Milton or near Catskill, moving east at 25 miles per hour. There have been a couple of other tornado warnings. There's one that expires, this is up in Wisconsin. Well, I'll give you to you anyway. In Rock and Walworth counties in Wisconsin, expiring in 5 minutes, which would be at 7:45 p.m. Eastern Time. Severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado near Clinton or 9 miles west of Delavan, neither of which I know where they are. And that's moving east at 40. And some tornado warnings up in Minnesota as well, parts of Colorado, a couple of counties in Colorado have a tornado warning that's about to expire in 4 minutes, which would be at 7:45. So, and an absolute ton of severe thunderstorm warnings. I'm going to bring up the radar right now, and we'll take a look at that. Because it is a wicked squall line. I saw it start forming earlier this afternoon in western New York, and then it really got going in a big way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think they're coming and going, but there's about 8 or 9 severe thunderstorm warnings, and I could see the tornado warning that just went up for Columbia and Greene counties. There's also a tornado warning on the Vermont side in the middle of the state, just east of right along the New York State border. I'm just gonna. Yeah, I'll see if I can pull that up in a moment. But you can see the squall line there. It's just sort of a giant hook that is moving east. And yes, the southern part of that doesn't extend. About the southernmost storm, there's an isolated severe thunderstorm in northeast Pennsylvania, but other than that, yeah, the squall line just kind of cuts off right along the Pennsylvania-New York state line.
Now, some of the models were suggesting that along about 9 or 10 o'clock tonight, there might be one of those renegade pop-up storms that might influence portions of the lower Hudson Valley, including my area. But at the moment, we don't see any sign of that. But again, the atmosphere is so right now, Joe, well, not right now, but about an hour ago, my temperature was 88 degrees. And according to my weather station, the dew point was a ridiculously high 77.
Oh my! Oh, that's just not. Look, I'll tell you this. I mean, maybe I didn't pay attention enough, but I don't remember too many times in the years that I lived in the 40 plus years that I lived up in the Northeast, and particularly the 30 plus years on Long Island. I don't ever remember. It's only in recent years that I think that I've noticed that we're getting these days where we get these dew points that are just absolutely off the wall.
Yeah, yeah. And Rich Rodmansky on the chat board pointing out dew point right now at JFK 75. So that falls in line with my 77. It's been exceptionally humid, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be breaking anytime soon.
No, the south wind, the winds are going to be south into the weekend. I mean, that's trajectory is right off the Atlantic, and the Atlantic is warm. And we're going to have another saturated atmosphere, and I think it's going to set up maybe some. I think we're going to set up for some thunderstorms tomorrow. Saturday, perhaps. Getting a little more bullish with regards to seeing maybe a couple. At first, I thought maybe Saturday we could get away with not very much like what happened last weekend. But starting to think that may not be the case. And Sunday, to me, is beginning to look more bullish for somebody's going to get clobbered with some heavy rain on Sunday.
Well, I hope it's not here. That's all I can say. I agree with you. I think the way I worded my forecast for Saturday was a chance of a hit or miss shower or thunderstorm, as Sunday, just an ongoing threat of showery rains and thunderstorms. And also some of the rains could indeed very well be heavy.
Louis Arizio hitting the Super Chat tip jar. Thank you, Louis. Most appreciated on this Thursday night. We have some other thunderstorms moving across West Virginia and into Virginia with one severe thunderstorm warning and a flash flood warning that's popped up in south central Virginia. Also, a couple of stray severe thunderstorms in western North Carolina. Some scattered thunderstorms in North Georgia. There's one that's not terribly far from me. And scattered thunderstorms in the state of Florida, up the peninsula and over back into the Panhandle. They had absolute flooding rains in parts of east central Mississippi. A foot of rain fell in some places in just a couple of hours. And earlier today, I noticed there were about 5 counties sitting in a flash flood warning. That warning's gone now. and most of that rain is weakened and moved to the southeast. So that's at least some good news. Here's the severe weather up in the upper Midwest across Minnesota. We've got a bunch of severe thunderstorm warnings and a tornado warning there. Um, some scattered storms in Iowa, some scattered storms in southeastern Colorado. Here, too, we've seen some severe thunderstorm warnings, one flash flood warning, and a little tornado warning there popping up that we mentioned earlier. North Texas, some scattered storms down in New Mexico, parts of southeastern Arizona, and also some scattered showers and thunderstorms moving across the state of Montana. And if we go to the GOES satellite loop, I'm going to give this a quick refresh. I mean, you can see the squall, the lightning strikes in that squall line there that's in upstate New York. I mean, that's a ripping line. Lots of lightning strikes there. So these 70 plus dew points are not limited to just near the coast. They're going all the way up.
Yeah, and that squall line, even from the wide view of the Western Hemisphere, or at least the wide view of North America, really stands out like a sore thumb. I mean, your attention is immediately attracted to that line. As you could see, the terminator, the line that separates day from night, is now in the process of moving across the Northeast, and still those storms are still quite active. They usually begin to diminish once we get into the nighttime, but they're still quite active. But again, also, thankfully, this line is very progressive. It is not just sitting there. It's not like a line of training convection where, you get one after another of showers and storms. This at least is moving. And, but for the short time, it's kind of like if you're in a boxing match, this is like, boom, one knockout punch. And this certainly can deliver a knockout to many areas that have already seen more than their fair share of adverse weather over this past few days.
And by the way, you could also see the lightning strikes with those storms moving across West Virginia into Western Virginia, and the scattered cells in North and South Carolina, down in parts of Georgia, and into North Florida. Just gonna check. Let's check the surface map. This is the 21Z map, and you have dew points up in Vermont, New Hampshire are in the mostly mid 60s, and then you get down into areas south of I-90, you start to see dew points in the low to mid 70s, and of course those 70 dew points go all the way down the East Coast and all the way west across the Tennessee Valley and the Gulf states. So it's a saturated air mass, and this is a pitiful excuse for a weather front that's moving through, in the sense that there is drier air and lower dew points behind it, but you're talking about a high that's analyzed in southern Michigan with a 1,012 pressure, which
Yes.
which is really, it's a high in name only, because it's pretty pathetic.
Relatively speaking, it's a little higher than the low.
Correct. And yes, and you see there's another front that's coming down out of Canada. And of course, ahead of that, we're with the thunderstorms that are going on in the upper Midwest and also into, back through Minnesota, dew points up there are climbing up from where they were in the 40s just a day or two ago, and now they're climbing up into the 60s there. So they've got all the ingredients. These systems keep dropping southeastward. The problem is when they get to the East Coast, because there's no push in the upper atmosphere with a weak southwest flow, they move along to a certain point, then they fall apart. Then the next one comes and moves along, and that one falls apart. So all this moisture around, you got these mechanisms that could shoot off some showers and thunderstorms. The Storm Prediction Center, now that squall line is moving in an area of enhanced risk, which is no surprise. And the tornado risk from northeastern Pennsylvania all the way up into northern New York and into western Vermont, running at a 2 to 5%, which you don't often see that far north. Also, slight risk of severe weather indicated in those storms in southern Ohio and West Virginia, eastern Kentucky, and into western Virginia. And then you also see slight risk up the western plains with a nose that points down into southern Minnesota. So, sort of busy with the folks here at the Storm Prediction Center. Now, here's the setup for tomorrow. a marginal risk from central New England south to North Carolina. Now, I wonder, Joe, might there be a sliver of slight risk added to this tomorrow?
I think there probably will be, and probably will be somewhere in the zone, which includes the Delmarva Peninsula, southern and maybe central sections of New Guernsey. I don't think we'll see slight up here. I could be wrong, but I do think that somewhere tomorrow, the SPC will put a slight risk within that zone of marginal risk for severe weather.
The idea that you could be wrong is just so
Yeah.
unfathomable. It's beyond comprehension, Joe. It shouldn't even be in a sentence. It's just not believable.
Well, I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah. Marginal risk in eastern Michigan, the eastern half of Michigan tomorrow. Marginal to slight risk from the middle Mississippi Valley to the lower Missouri River Valley, and also across slight risk in Kansas and through Oklahoma. And this is now Friday into Saturday, so day 3 would be Saturday into Sunday. And for now, we have a marginal risk from Michigan down to Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee, but a very large area of general, pretty much everybody east of the Rockies is under general thunderstorms. And tomorrow, Sunday, comes into view on day 3, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. The rainfall, and again, we're in this place where everything is convectively driven. So if you look at a smoothed out area of rainfall amounts of 1.5 to 2.5 inches from northern New Jersey and northeastern Pennsylvania into southern Maine, as per WPC, you can, we want to put that asterisk in there that there's going to be there probably will be areas that could get much more than that, possibly double those amounts. Depending on how this weather front that comes for Sunday and how that sets up. Also, southeastern Virginia to central North Carolina in a band of 1.5 to 2.5. Here too, you could get double. Somebody could wind up with double the amounts. I think that's probably the case. We could say with any thunderstorm activity that's going on here, there's always that risk. And certainly we saw today with respect to what happened in east central Mississippi. When we looked at these maps yesterday, there wasn't a 1 foot plus rainfall. It wasn't a 10 to 15 inch area indicated there because these are small scale events. So you just unless it's a hurricane, you can't pinpoint like that with these thunderstorms. So it sort of needs to just be understood that when it comes to these convectively driven events, that somebody's going to get absolutely clobbered. So let's roll through. Now, the one thing I've noticed, Joe, I'm going to go to the European because one of the things that the GFS I think has had some trouble with is this timing mechanisms with these storms. I think the European, I've been following it along this week. It seems to have done a much better job. First off, splitting the storms today, indicating that the squall line was not going to be going all the way south. Into southern New York and into New Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania, and that was correct. And you see it's got these patchy storms in the other places, so obviously it's real time. So if the map's going to be as close to a radar as what the radar's showing as you can get. Now tomorrow, interestingly enough, it fires up some storms tomorrow, some showers anyway, from 9 or maybe a couple of thunderstorms in there, sometime between 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. Across much of the Hudson Valley down into northern New Jersey and Long Island, and also fires up some stuff down in western Virginia, parts of South Carolina, and even by me. And then it continues to blossom out some cells right into Friday evening. I think it may have the better idea here, Joe, that this front's going to get hung up. It's not going to move through. So you're going to have that mechanism there probably to set off some thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon and evening. And if that's the case, there certainly could be some heavy rains to deal with, and perhaps some, if the marginal risk is correct, certainly some isolated severe thunderstorms out of this.
Yeah, and And you're absolutely right. With the way the dew point temperatures are, any thunderstorm could provide a very heavy downpour and a possible brief flash flooding, and could be double what the forecast is suggesting in terms of quantitative precipitation. The PWATs, the precipitable water amounts, certainly are there for, again, some very, very heavy rainfall. The difference is, of course, that what we had on Sunday into Sunday night was a weather front interacting with a low pressure
with a very strong shortwave.
And it doesn't appear that that's in the cards in the next few days, says he. So we may get hit with occasional heavy showers or storms, but it should not, he says, approach what we went through this past Sunday and Monday. And he also has his fingers crossed.
Right, and your legs too.
Yes.
By the way, this is not what the radar is supposed to look like. These are rainfall amounts. They sort of die out a bit Friday night into Saturday morning inland, although the European wants to have a pretty large area of heavy rain overnight touching Long Island and just offshore. We'll see how real that is. Doesn't really do much on Saturday, which I thought originally kind of made sense to me, that Saturday would be the better day. But it's certainly going to be the better of the 2 weekend days. But then on Sunday, it fires up all this rain in the Northeast down through the coastal Mid-Atlantic states into Sunday night, only to slowly move out during the overnight. And then we see improving weather conditions for Monday before we start to deal with maybe another front on Tuesday with some showers and thunderstorms. So the pattern does look busy. Now, that's the Europeans' world. The new GFS, the 18Z GFS, actually, the GFS has been kind of off a little bit with the timing over the weekend, and now it seems to line up more with the European on this recent run. It kind of lines up more with the 12Z European run, and I'll show you here. So this is tonight, of course, and the squall line goes away. The GFS doesn't really fire up anything overnight, and then during the day tomorrow, it has more of a scattered look, perhaps a bit more in the way of storminess in southeastern Virginia and eastern North Carolina, and also up in northern New England. And I'm not sure I'm buying that part of the equation. And then suddenly Saturday evening, it's mostly scattered stuff, a little bit more numerous to the west. But take a look at Sunday. This is showers moving in Saturday night into Sunday morning, Joe. You start to see all this dark green and even some yellows in there. And again, this now I'm showing you is the radar. Take a look at that for Sunday after at 2 o'clock. What's sitting in the Hudson Valley in western Long Island, western Connecticut, and western Massachusetts. So it's kind of saying that there's going to be a band of heavy rain here that is going to hit some areas Sunday afternoon, and then by Sunday evening it's gone. It might be a little fast here, but you got to be a little bit concerned that somebody's going to get clobbered with this.
Yeah.
I know. I feel terror when you've got to dry. Having had my basement flood out several times on Long Island, not even rain related. It was always because something, even either the water heater blew up or something along those lines. But there you go. Here's what it looks like on the wider view. I'll just roll it back. You can see some of the more adverse weather that's going to tomorrow night, for example, in Kansas and northwest Missouri. Looks like a fairly impressive line of storms. Also, another line that moves through from Arkansas across Mississippi into Alabama. Then, of course, you have Saturday, and it gets strong thunderstorms in western North Carolina, western Virginia, down into just getting into the state of Georgia. And there's that thing for Sunday afternoon that with this weather front, which does push through. And then in the longer range, the next chance, earlier runs were doing something with Tuesday. This run backed off. The European has something for later Tuesday. And then at the end of next week, looks like on Thursday, some other front comes on through. So More weather fronts and more chances for storms along the way because the upper pattern doesn't want to change anytime soon.
And today was the day when the Climate Prediction Center came out with their updated um,
Drought
forecast
map.
drought map. And while I cannot show it, I will describe it in the sense that everybody, save for one locale in the tri-state area, is now under no drought, not even abnormally dry. I mean, after what we went through Sunday and Monday, how could it possibly be abnormally dry anymore? The only place where they have, believe it or not, moderate drought indicated is Long Island. But of course, Long Island didn't see the 8 or 9 inches of rain that the Hudson Valley saw. They did get anywhere from 1 to 3 inches, but that wasn't apparently enough to alleviate the dry conditions that Long Island has been seeing. While, the Hudson Valley has been getting clobbered time after time with heavy rains and showers and thunderstorms or whatever, the folks on Long Island have been saying, all we got was just a half an inch. All we got was a quarter of an inch out of it, so they've been missing out on a lot of the heavy duty rains. But Long Island, you're in at least based upon the latest drought map, you're in D1, a moderate drought. Everywhere else in the Hudson Valley, no drought whatsoever. Northern New Jersey, no drought. And in eastern Pennsylvania, where they had anywhere from moderate to even severe drought up until a week or two ago, now it is backed off to just abnormally dry. It's also abnormally dry over portions of southwestern and southern Connecticut. But the situation in regard to the severity of the drought has certainly been alleviated by all of the rains that we've seen over the last couple of weeks. There is also in far western New York and northwestern Pennsylvania moderate drought conditions, and also western Pennsylvania. They have anywhere from moderate drought to just abnormally dry. Nothing severe, nothing extreme or exceptional. Just just some dry conditions or droughty conditions. And again, in the immediate tri-state area, save for Long Island, most everywhere else, the conditions are much improved in terms of drought conditions.
WPC on their flash flood excessive rainfall guidance, risk of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance, has this is through tonight into tomorrow morning, a small area of moderate risk. So that's 40 to 69% probability that there could be some flash flooding there, and a slight risk that surrounds that, as it just pretty much matches up with the squall line. Same for the areas in southeastern Ohio and West Virginia and Western Virginia and into the Carolina Mountains, and an area of slight risk in southern Alabama to the Florida Panhandle. Now for tomorrow, they have slight risk up and down from well, most central New England, certainly, central and southern New England, kind of noses almost into northern New England. Slight risk across Long Island, eastern New Jersey, eastern New York, down through the Delmarva Peninsula, southeastern Virginia, and eastern North Carolina, all in a slight risk, which is 15 to 40% or 15 to 39% probability of excessive rainfall to exceed flash flood guidance. And again, a slight risk in Alabama into eastern Mississippi and the western portion of the Florida Panhandle. Marginal risk everywhere else. Again, Friday into Saturday. Now, Saturday into Sunday, they've got this sort of amorphous, large area of marginal risk from northern New England all the way back to eastern Michigan, the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic states, the Southeast, and even into the central Gulf states. Then there's a break, and then there's an area from Oklahoma and North Texas into eastern Colorado with a marginal to slight risk there. Tomorrow we'll have the Sunday map, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. Meanwhile, while we let's switch gears. Just want to bring up weather.gov so we could take a look at some of the watches and warnings. Sometime today, thank you. So it's a very colorful map, Joe. Very, very colorful. You see the purple areas with the severe thunderstorm watches. We now, by the way, have three. Those are, the colors are so tough to. I don't know if those are tornado or flash flood. That looks like those look like flash flood warnings up now for several counties in central Vermont, mixed in with all these severe thunderstorm warnings. So I'm going to just go back to the radar in the Northeast and see if anything new has come up. I mean, but it goes to show you, even though the line is moving along, if there's flash flooding going on, and there is. You could see the cluster of counties in the green boxes that just went up in central Vermont. So it tells you that it really doesn't take much for them to flash flood, considering all the rain that's fallen. So don't underestimate whatever happens over the weekend, because it, it may not take much for flash flooding to occur in places like North Jersey and the Hudson Valley and Western Connecticut and Western Massachusetts.
It's been a tough time. Let's hope that July has been a tough month. Let's hope that things quiet down a bit by August. Not really sure what's going to be happening in the coming weeks, but and I don't want to even say it can't get any worse, because if I say that, and I just did anyway, but
it'll find a way.
They'll find a way, yeah.
We have a lot of excessive heat and heat advisories up for the western Gulf states, all the way back through the Southwest, particularly in Arizona, southern Nevada, much of California away from the coast. Let's see what Phoenix is doing at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And would think that they could have the temperature on this on the home page. If temperatures are the issue, then why is not there a temperature? Like when you go to the weather services, the temperature's in the upper right, and they don't have it. 114, Joe, at Sky Harbor International Airport. Why is it called Sky Harbor? There's no harbor there. 114. The dew point is 55, so that comes out to a relative humidity of a whopping 14%. The heat index is actually 2 degrees lower than the temperature, Joe. The heat index is at 112. Shall we see what Las Vegas? Let's go to Las Vegas, and let's see what they're doing.
Before you do that, can you go to Tucson, which is further to the south of Phoenix?
Oh, okay, sure. I'll bring it up. I just brought up. I just snapped on Las Vegas. So, TUCSON. Okay, 109 in Las Vegas with a dew point of 26.
Wow.
And the relative humidity is 5%, and the heat index is at 101. So it actually feels cooler. Tucson, with a relative humidity of 20%, a dew point of 56, with a temperature of 104.
Wow.
So the heat index is 103. And why don't we check out, just for laughs, Death Valley, Furnace Creek. There's actually this is at the Visitor Center at Furnace Creek, Death Valley.
Why would anybody visit Death Valley, especially in July?
Why would they have a visitor center? 114, dew point 36, relative humidity 7%, so it feels like 107. All right, so I don't see any 120s or 130s as I saw some news stories get into that, or that they're coming. Oh, we have a red X from the Hurricane Center, Joe. We've got a red X. An area of low pressure 1,000 miles west-southwest of the Azores has become more organized and increased thunderstorm activity near a better defined low-level center with gale force winds. Although the environment is only marginally conducive, this system will likely become a subtropical storm during the next day or so, and they have a probability of 70%. So, and I don't think they have anything else. If we check out the 7-day, don't think they have anything else. Nope, they just got that one. On the Eastern Pacific side, we have Calvin.
Now here, I got to tell you this about Calvin. My son and my daughter-in-law chose next week to go to Hawaii. They're taking a 2-week vacation in Hawaii. And I said to them back whenever they were making these plans in the wintertime, I said, well, you're going at a time of the year when the weather usually is excellent. They get the northeast trade winds, and if it blows down slope from many of the tall peaks in Hawaii, that usually means that the skies are going to be clear, the weather is going to be fair. And during the month of July, the trade winds blow 95% of the time, which means that 95% of the time you have fair, dry, clear weather. So I said, go with my blessings. No problems in July usually. And of course, now I see it up on the screen here. We have Calvin. And this evening, my son called up. They're leaving on Tuesday for Hawaii. And he's saying, what's this I'm hearing about this hurricane that's heading for Hawaii? And initially I said, usually they just fade out before they ever get near Hawaii.
And this one probably will.
Yeah, but what he's concerned about, he wants to go snorkeling. They want to go snorkeling, and he says he's concerned that there's going to be swells and.
It's not going to. They're not going to have swells for 2 weeks. They're going for 2 weeks.
I said, you're gone for 2 weeks, so you get a couple of days knocked out because of rough sea. I mean, and I told him, I said, I want to tell you something. You're going to a place that's going to be far away from all of the heat, all of the mugginess, all of the showery, thundery weather that we have been putting up with now, and will likely continue into next week at least. I said, you're going to a better place, regardless of whether or not Calvin comes close to you. It still wasn't, not so much he, but my daughter-in-law, who always worries at the drop of a pin, was concerned about all of this. I said, it's about a week away before you have to start being concerned. Things can go differently, but still, I still remember saying, July's a wonderful month to go to Hawaii.
There's probably a 99% chance that it will do what these systems normally do as they approach Hawaii. I've seen Category 5 hurricanes disappear once they, excuse me. There's an area of semi-permanent shear out there. So anytime these systems approach, and they just fall apart, and the ocean water temperatures are kind of borderline. But more importantly, it's that shear zone that's out there a lot of the times, and these systems just get ripped apart. No, stop worrying.
I told him, I said, you need to worry not when storms approach from the eastern Pacific, but when a storm develops in the central Pacific, usually south of the Hawaiian Islands.
South of where they're moving northward. Those are problematic.
Right, those are the ones that you have to be concerned about. Well, we'll see what happens. Anyway.
All right, so let's do a little bit of Briller Jeopardy on this Thursday night. By the way, as I'm trying to find posts, because I just love Messenger. Anyway, I put up, for those of you who might be interested, because I've been landscaping my yard for the better part of 6 weeks now. I think I started in the first week of June. I'm still at it, but I'm getting toward the end of it. Joe, I went out today. I finally, I've been trying to find stones all over, to use as flower bed borders, and as usually works with me, since I'm looking for stones, all I wind up seeing out there is firewood. If I was looking for firewood, that's when I would just see nothing but stones. So that being said, I was down to the last. I have a lot of, it's a big garden that I created. So I finally threw in the towel, and I went to the stone store, and I bought 175 stones at $1 a stone, and I'm talking about stones that are about 8 to 12 inches long. So I just said, let me get this out of the way because I'm tired of driving around trying to find free rocks. So I got the whole garden outlined. I've got one small section where I just have to lay down some topsoil and mulch, and I'll be finished. And I put up a video about an hour ago. So if you want to take a look at it, just go on my YouTube channel. It's a 1 minute video, so you would not have to give up, your entire life to watch it. It's just a 1 minute video. It's actually 50 seconds, and you can take a look at some of the work that I've done. I've got Briller Jeopardy ready, but before we do, I just want to see. I got this. Yeah, Bill Goodman sent me a message. He's been talking about the long range European since May has been signaling, and still does, signaling tropical activity along the east coast of the United States during the month of August. Apparently that still remains the case. So we'll see how that plays out in the coming weeks.
Sure. What else could go wrong, right? That was a rhetorical question up there.
Yes. All right, so here we go with Briller Jeopardy. Tonight we're doing average lows in the month of July. Okay, average lows, low temperatures, okay, in the month of July. And we'll start here with my home, it's not my hometown, it's 2 hours away, but I live near it, Atlanta, Georgia. Average low temperature for the month of July.
How about 72 degrees?
And 72 degrees, you are exactly correct.
Oh, my goodness.
The mountain climber doesn't need to start climbing up the mountain. Okay, so let's move on. Chuck Cardillo and Frank are also saying 72. So did Carol DeCara and William Uber. So very good, Joseph. Now let's do the next one is Boston, Massachusetts. Boston.
Let's try for Boston. How about 65?
65, is that correct? Chris Alley says 62. Chuck Cardillo 69. Johnny Quest 63. Helen Bertona 69. Craig Carlberg at 59. You're too cold. And William Huber gets it, Joe. You only missed it by 1. 66. 66. Wow. So you just climbed 1 step up the mountain. Just 1. Next is Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte, North Carolina.
I'll say 68.
Is it 68? Johnny Quest is 71. Trex JFF says 71. Chris Alley 72. And James Davidson 65. Northern Grace 74. Lou Arizio at 71. And Rutch Rothmansky at 71. And Alan Rupa at 71. But Joe Z just hit it, Joe. Joe Z hit it at 70. 70. So what did you say? What did you say? 72?
No, I said 60. I think
68.
Yeah.
All right, so you missed it by 2. So far, you've only missed it by the 3 cities, 3 degrees. Chicago.
66.
66, is that correct?
WNBC.
Alan Rupa says 67. Craig Carlberg said 69, but James Davidson hits it at 66. No, I'm sorry. 66 is not correct. My fault. Helen Bertona hits it. And so did Chris Alley. 68. 68 is the number. Sorry, I don't know. It's hard for me to hold numbers in my head anymore. Last but not least, beautiful city by Lake Erie. If you've never been there, you should go. It really is a nice place. Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, yes.
Cleveland, Ohio.
They call Cleveland the mistake on the lake, but
it's not. It's a really pretty city. I've been there several times. I like it there. It's very nice, especially by Lake Erie.
And believe it or not, the total eclipse of the sun that's going to pass up along the eastern and southern part of the United States on April 8th next year passes directly over Cleveland, and the Chamber of Commerce of Cleveland, Ohio, is using that to their advantage. They're trying to coax or lure people to come to Cleveland for the great celestial show next April. Of course, early in April, you could still have snow. But I will say one thing about Cleveland, Joe. Of any major city in the Ohio Valley or the Northeast, if a major snow falls in Cleveland, they know how to get rid of it real fast.
Yes.
They have an excellent, they probably have the best highway department, and also at the airport, probably the best airport to clear away that stuff out of the runways. So Cleveland is a very, very good city, maligned indeed. I don't know why, but it's a great town. And the low temperature, I would say, in July in Cleveland, Ohio, would be, I would say, 64.
Not 64, but close. And Environmental Coffee House, Chuck Cardillo, Michael Azera, and several others, I think. Just looking here. And there's Environmental Coffee House, 65. And Cleveland also has the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That is correct, Environmental Coffee House. 65, Joe. 65. So you did pretty well. You only 5 degrees over 5 cities. That's pretty good.
I'm having a good night tonight.
You is.
Whatever. And about Leon Probitsky, Joe, the Aurora is tonight. No, the Aurora is not tonight.
Yes, that's not happening.
As I've been saying for days and days and days, it is not going to be an Aurora tonight. I don't know why.
I wonder why. Why did that story even run? How did it get started?
I don't know. In Alaska, they put out, and this is about as useful as the 10-day weather forecast. They put out a 27-day forecast for possible solar activity, and you know that after a few days, that is going to go straight down into the toilet in terms of being right. But I don't know, for whatever reason, in the mainstream media, somebody picked up on that and ran with it, and all over, even on national news, they were predicting a major aurora for tonight. But it is not happening. It will not happen. You can go out and look if it's clear. It's always nice to go out and look up at the sky and the stars, but you're not going to see an aurora tonight. And New Brunswick, Canada guy, eclipse coming right over me too, he said. It's a big tourist attraction, I guess. It is. It is. And I'll get more into this in the weeks and months to come. It is a bucket list event. Joe, you ought to see it for your own, you may not get another chance unless you're still around in the 2040s or whatever, when it comes back to,
Well, I have no plans to die because I'm booked. And of course we've been picked up until at least 2050, so by the network. So we're going to be, we'll still have the Joe and Joe weather show. It may not move as quickly, but we may not remember that we're on, but we may still be here. Let's hope so.
The total eclipse path will miss ever so slightly Toronto. Toronto's going to get 99.9% of totality. It'll go directly over Montreal. It does go over New Brunswick. I can't. I'm not sure if it's going to be over Moncton, which is a significant town in New Brunswick. But it's going to go over New Brunswick. It's going to go over Nova Scotia. It's also going to go over Newfoundland. In fact, there's a town in Newfoundland, and I've been to this town. I was there in 1999. When we were on a cruise through the Canadian Maritimes, and the mayor of the town, this woman, at that time, it looked like she was in her 70s, so she's probably not on this world anymore. But I told her, I said, in 2024, you're going to have a big eclipse of the sun. They had one there in 1970, and now they only had to wait like 54 years for another one. It is a big event. It is a major event. If you've never seen one before, you must see one. It's in some cases it might even be a life-changing event. A lot of people say after they see it, the first thing out of their mouth is, "When's the next one? I've got to see another one of these."
Yeah.
And
I imagine it would be.
And that's how you get hooked, like yours truly. I've traveled to 13 already. This will be number 14 coming up
Nice.
next week.
All right. Sunday's show is scheduled for 11 a.m. So as at the moment, it remains scheduled for 11 a.m. But there is a chance that we could go to Sunday evening. Personally, I would prefer to do it at 11 a.m. if it's going to be raining and pouring. So we'll have a setup like last Sunday, and it's happening while we're on the air. But that will depend on whether I go down to my daughter's or my daughter's coming up here. If my daughter comes up here, I'm thinking we'll have the show at 11 a.m. If I'm going down there, then we may have to move it to 7. So for now, we'll just leave it as is. And that's it. I got nothing else to say.
I don't have anything else either.
Okay, so who are our super chat hits today, Joe?
I wish I could tell you. I don't have.
Oh, that's right. You can't see. So it was Leon Probitsky, who I didn't mention earlier, hit super chat. Thank you, Leon. Most appreciated. And Lou Arizio, our 2 super chat hitters for tonight. And the Joe and Joe Weather Show, as it is every night, Monday through Thursday at 7:35 and Sundays at 11 a.m., is brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system so you can join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this video. And if you use the coupon code Joe and Joe Weather Show on anything you purchase there, you'll get
10% off.
And Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, for your hardware needs, your gardening needs, and for your hurricane needs. 631-756-1125 is the phone number for the best prices in town, and the website is
OmniTrueValue.com. What else?
Yes. So on that note, we shall say good night. Thanks everybody for being here tonight. And since the regulars are here every night, thank you for being here every night and supporting our show. So we'll see you on Sunday, again, tentatively scheduled for 11 a.m. If, by the way, if we wind up moving the show, I will open the chat board up. Actually, I'll probably open up the chat boards on Saturday. So you'll know on Saturday whether the show is at 11 a.m. or at 7:30 p.m. or something, in something in the evening. Good night.
Night, night, folks.